Oh boy, howdy do I hope that this is properly all recording. Right next to me is the painting that I have just finished. This one did not take me nearly as long as my other ones, but it's honestly one of my favorites, I think, that I have done. First of all, you'll notice that I tend to lean towards the 3/4 portrait format. It's kind of like default what I end up going to, but this one ended up being a side profile, which is cool. Typically, I'm not like trying to make a specific figure or anything until I find it in the piece. So it is interesting that I always find that 3/4 portrait, but it was good that this time I was able to find that side portrait. And you know, maybe it's just because that's kind of what I'm most comfortable with, so that's what my brain seeks out, but I don't know, or maybe I've conditioned myself to look for it. But let's talk a little bit about the context of the week that went into making this piece. I ended up having 6 FND episodes in less than 24 hours, maybe 16 to 18 hours. Oh my gosh. 0 out of 10, would not recommend. It was like really just one after the other one. I mean, I guess it wasn't necessarily that fast, but for a while there, my ability to take in any sort of input, light or sound, was basically 0, which was tough. But I found something interesting in that, which is that when your world shrinks, and when your world and your capacity to do really anything shrinks down to damn near nothing, like really all I can do during those times is paint and lay on the couch to keep my body's stress low. But what that does is I have 0 extra energy for like making extraneous marks or trying to look cool in my paintings or do anything like that, anything that's not necessary to the piece. And so while it does suck to be in that position, painting from that position ends up, in my opinion, being some of my favorite stuff that I make. Let me throw some sunglasses on. So a little bit about this piece. I mean, if you're familiar with my work, I think you'll recognize it. I think you'll recognize the technique. But this is sort of me further working on trying to figure out a way to, like, I guess, build structure with abstraction. It's, you know, it's coming together, honestly. I think right now it's looking good. There's still pieces of this that I would like to change, but when I look at it, I can't find anything specifically that I can for sure say this adds to the piece. Like, and not just decorative, but like this is a genuine, like this piece needs this sort of conversation to happen in a space. Like, I don't like how some of the reds and greens are unbroken and kind of put on with a large brush. They look a little bit sloppy, but at the same time, when I zoom in and I look at the strokes, they contain a lot more than I can see from afar. And so then that kind of changes my mind a little bit, but then I go back and I see it again. I want to change it, but then I get up close and I think, honestly, if I break those, I think that I end up creating something that looks overly busy, just for the sake of trying to be impressive or something like that, which we're not trying to do here. I hate gimmick for gimmick's sake. Like, if there's some sort of extreme element to a piece that needs to happen, because the work is asking for it, then sure. pursue that. But like, just making something, like doing something because you think that you should do it is kind of like, well, I was going to say it's anti-art, but then again, if we're looking at art as like the expression of your psyche, then if you're thinking you should do something, maybe that's a genuine expression of that. I don't know, I haven't thought of that yet. Well, that is sure interesting. So unfortunately, as much as I would love to be able to feel what's going on in my body and how stressed I am, I have no perception of that, I have found. I really have no idea how stressed my body is. And I don't know if that's because I've trained that over time with things like trail running and climbing and things like that, but it's kind of a problem in this sense because I tend to push myself really, really hard thinking that I'm doing just fine. Like, I feel totally fine on the inside. I feel engaged. I want to go move on to the next thing, knock out several things in a day. Then I look on my watch body stress, and I've been at like 80 for like a long time. And then I start having all these symptoms where I'm like, the auditory stuff comes back, and then I start like, randomly, like my body will just start dumping sweat, and it feels like the beginning of going into shock, just put onto you out of nowhere, which is very uncomfortable and unfortunate. But my point in saying all of that is that this watch has helped me learn to track that body stress when I don't have the internal awareness for that, which it's a good and a bad thing. It's good because I at least have something, but it's a bad thing because I sort of rely on this now. And yeah, I mean, I feel like I had more of a second reason why that's bad, but it's really just because I rely on this a lot, and it's not really training my ability to notice things. Enough about that. And I don't want to complain. I'm trying to give you a little bit of. I talk about this a decent amount in my videos, and so maybe I've repeated myself at a certain point, but it does play a big part of my life most every week. And so if I repeat myself, I apologize, but I'm just speaking to the current moment that I am dealing with. So that you can get a little bit of a idea behind the moment that created this piece. Because for me, I think the way that there's a lot of things that I say in terms of this is the way that I make art, this is how I think about it. There's a lot of different things that go into it, but like one thing that I'm finding is sort of an emerging principle maybe of the process is I think that what I'm trying to do is less about curating some sort of experience of myself to share, and more about trying to step out of the way of curator and just simply put raw data onto a field and then sort of work my judgment in just enough to arrange that raw data in a way that that it creates a recognizable form. And then, I don't know, I feel like I keep trying to talk about this because I think I'm getting closer and closer to being able to articulate my actual perspective on my whole painting process and the way that, the way that I like to make art, but it still eludes me. I still I come up with these ideas that I want to discuss with you guys, and then I describe them, and I get to the end of them, and there's just a little bit towards the end where it's unresolved. So I'm still making progress in trying to at least internally define exactly how this works. I think externally and I think visually the system's establishing itself, you know what I'm saying? But it's just getting there. It's just getting there. Working on it. Being consistent. Sharing with you guys everything that I'm learning along the way, and forcing myself to explain it, and then learning because of that simple reason. It's like when you have to teach somebody something in school, and it helps you learn something faster. It's kind of like me forcing myself to talk about this and share thoughts about my process forces me to get better at articulating that and think about it more deeply than maybe I would otherwise if I was just painting. Seems like it's going to rain here pretty soon. Let's take a look at this piece. One thing that I'm proud of here is, I mean, I know we're not dealing with a completely anatomically correct person here, but I'm happy with the way that I was able to sort of bring in somewhat of an anatomically correct figure, morph it a little bit, add a bunch onto the chin, obviously, and sort of bring it together and then stop before it went too far. Now, does there need to be more done? I don't know. Maybe, you know, future me watching this video in 6 months, I don't know why I'd be rewatching an old 6-month video of mine, but regardless, maybe 6-month me looking at this painting will have a different perspective on it. But right now I'm pretty happy with where it's at. You know, we're still laying sort of the foundation and the groundwork for whatever this is. Sometimes just in talking about all this, I feel like just the simple act of trying to define it is doing it a disservice, and maybe there's a grain of truth to that in the sense of talking about the art itself. But I think that talking is an act of expression in itself, and so I think that can be a separate art form to the work. I'm just trying to, I think. You know, if you've been watching this channel for a while, you'll see a very clear evolution of how I have made videos. And like there's sort of like different experiments that happen within that evolution. But regardless, there's still an evolution happening. I'm not at the end of it. And I think I'm still learning on how exactly I want to learning about how exactly I want to balance actually painting versus talking about the work versus talking about my circumstances. Yeah, it's an interesting thing because I found that I do like making the monologue videos. I like talking to you guys, so I know I like that. But then when you consider the actual content of it, you know, I don't want to talk too much about personal stuff because I don't want to be like a negative Nancy. I don't want everyone to be bummed when they watch my videos. But then at the same time, if I'm leaving that out entirely, you're not getting really any sort of information on the background that went into the piece. Hence, sort of removing the aspect of the piece the video as a piece of expression in itself. Right? So that's difficult, but then you also don't want to talk about the art too much because the art is it's best left seen and experienced rather than you know, just talked about to death, I think. But so yeah, I think for me I'm in a place where right now I'm just trying to like figure out how exactly what is the best balance of those two things. I know in my last format, like we were out in the forest, I like this a lot. It's less stressful because I'm not in the studio with the lights on blaring in my face and everything's cramped and bright and lots of colors and everything like that. Like I can barely even see the camera from where I'm sitting because it's a 200mm lens. I hope it has a cool effect or something like that, but regardless, I do like recording out here a lot, and I think that will be a part of the content to come. Now, when it starts snowing and it's very cold, you know, I don't know. I don't know, maybe we'll do some outside, maybe we'll do some indoors, we'll figure it out. Maybe we'll do some on the porch where there's not really a whole bunch of snow. This week, as a sort of set of realizations, trying to go through and think. One major thing that I've noticed, I have no idea how to fix it, but I have noticed it, is, and I think this is again, I try not to talk too much about, like, personal problems that I have that don't really have relevance to other people, just because I don't want to be complaining for the sake of complaining. If I'm going to voice some sort of complaint, I want it to be something that other people can relate to. But I think that a problem that I have, I know for sure, and from what I've heard of some other artists, is like you get so into what you're doing that, like, you don't really care that much about anything else. But then the problem with that is that we're people, and if you don't care about anything else, like, imagine you're trying to be friends with somebody, and all they talk about is this one thing that you may or may not like that much. But then when you try to talk about anything that you want to talk about, they don't really want to talk about it. Regardless if they try to or not, you can tell that they don't want to. And I think that I run into that issue in my relationships a lot, which is that I am extremely focused on the things that I love and care about, but I have complete blinders to everything else, including relationships, and I let all of that go to the side, or to the wayside. And, I guess the obvious solution is just, like, appreciate people and don't think about yourself so much and all of these things. But I don't think it's obviously not that easy. It's an interesting thing to try to, I think one thing that I'm trying to, I guess, that makes sense, just sitting here talking to you guys about it right now, is maybe try to start, when you are wanting to have a conversation with somebody or talking to them, maybe it's just a matter of just trying to observe what you find interesting in that person, and then trying to ask about it and learn about it. And then treat each social experiment, or treat each social experience like an experiment or an opportunity to learn more about the human condition. I don't know. Maybe that's the better way to look at it. And I'm sure, it's not easy as flipping a switch, but maybe it's just something to try to keep in mind in the future. I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below if this is something that you struggle with, and if you have any solutions. I'd love to know if this is also something that anybody else deals with. Wow. I think we've been recording for almost 20 minutes now. Maybe even more. Yeah, I guess to bring it back to this piece, I'll say my favorite part of the piece is the mouth. I really like the way that the purple comes through, kind of a grid area. And I really like the texture. I like that. One thing that I've been working towards is, because I paint over my work so much, sometimes the texture comes across as maybe like unintentional, and so I've been working very hard on trying to intentionalize the texture of my pieces, and I think that this very much achieves that sort of intentional texture. I really love using gesso for that. That's what this whole background is. Usually I'll do like a varnish to sort of bring the background and the foreground together, but in this case I really like that the background is matte and the foreground is gloss. It really works with the white and then sort of the dark coloring. Like, something about the matte white with the dark colors being shiny, like, it somewhat looks more balanced than I think if it was all equally shiny. There's something that looks natural about it. I don't know, you have to see the piece in person. I need to do like a show, but I've just started this sort of series where I'm doing figures on more plain backgrounds to sort of help force myself at least to define something. I don't want to lean too hard into definition, which is, is I think a reoccurring theme of this video, but at the same time, you need some sort of definition. It's still like it's hard because I'm still like in an exploratory phase, but at the same time, I sort of have a direction, I guess, that I'm going right now that I'm interested in. I guess that's all I can really say. Like, I'm not necessarily trying to define a specific thing or a movement or whatever, put it all into words, but being interested in a direction of artwork is, I think, a genuine and valid thing, and a fun thing to explore, and something worth exploring. I think that's just kind of what I'm doing right now. I love that, stumbling onto a simple truth. Especially live with you guys. I like that a lot. It's hard because naturally I tend to really gravitate towards black and white thinking. But then as I've gotten older, I've learned that almost nothing is black and white, and so then I try to explore that. But then I almost find that I get black and white in the sense that everything is gray. So then I'm like, yeah, what do we do? What do we do? It's all very confusing being a person, because you have anything that you take a stance on, or anything that you try to set in stone and say, this is the thing. There's always going to be a really good point against that. Unless you're talking maybe scientific fact or whatever. But we're not. I think I may have mentioned this before, is I think the best thing to do is just like build a system that works for yourself and just follow that and not be like, very intense about it. I think we might have a car coming behind us. Oh no, they're just coming down the hill in the other reason. We live in like a valley area, and so the sound bounces around in really interesting ways. And I hope that sometimes that's why I didn't record outside for a long time, because I've always been sort of worried about like, how is it, where's my voice going to bounce around to, and it's kind of embarrassing to record a video talking when anybody else can hear it. But ultimately, it's like, dude, who gives a shit? Any sort of like judgment that you're worried about you're putting on yourself, unless somebody's actively coming up to you and saying that I judge you, and in which case that's on you whether or not you want to let somebody's judgment define what you do. So it's a difficult, it was a difficult thing, I think, for me to choose to do it, but I'm getting more to a point where I'm happy and I'm confident in what I'm doing, and I know the direction that I'm interested in going in, and I know, I kind of know a little bit of like what I want to do, so doing it. It's way easier on my body to record out here than it is in that studio. Let's take another check on the stress meter. Oh, it looks like we're 1 minute away from another reading. Oh yeah, we've been at a pretty high stress level this entire video. It's interesting because last time I was able to record and I was at a super low stress level the entire time. Maybe it was just, the climate, because it was, golden hour and beautiful. Now we got like a rainstorm upon us and it's overcast. And I'm coming off a week of, I don't know that was just a very intense time. Skate came out this week. Big deal. I think it came out today. Yeah, the day that I'm recording this, it comes out today. But I can't play it because for some reason, when you get too fast in that game, my brain interprets that as a danger in real life, and then it replays those moments over and over and over again, and it won't stop. So I have to not play that game, which is unfortunate, but there's other good games out there. I've been playing the Simpsons Hit and Run, I've been playing, this is actually very cool. I forgot to share this with you guys, and it's kind of perfect that it's at the end of a video. My wife found a CRT TV at Goodwill for $10, and it's a 1991 Panasonic TR930B, which is a black and white video monitor, which I think was originally used for security cameras, I want to say. But I need to do a little bit more research into it. But anyways, so I got that, and I hooked it up to my PlayStation 2. And I have Jak 3, Jak 2, Ratchet Deadlocked, Simpsons Hit and Run, Tony Hawk's American Wasteland, and Shadow the Hedgehog. And oh man, have I been on that Simpsons Hit and Run. Not many hours or anything, which is very nice about those old PS2 games, because they're like, they don't grab your attention for hours and hours and hours and ruin your life and distract you and constantly and make you wish that you were playing it when you weren't playing it. I mean, they kind of did when I was a kid, but they're not that intense anymore. So, especially when you're playing on a black and white TV, it's really not too overwhelming, which is very nice. It's very nice. So if, just trying to figure out a way to recommend this experience to somebody, but it's a very specific experience. So I don't think there's anything else to be gained from that other than it's a cool thing that I am doing right now that I'm excited about. So anyways, this week has been a week of FND episodes, of new CRT TVs from Goodwill, of finishing a painting in 1 week, and of generally just trying to, recover from the physical strain that these neurological events happen, and then also sort of keep going forward. Standard week in the life. One of my favorite paintings that I've completed so far. I'm happy that it's at a new angle. I'm happy to be exploring new areas of form. And yeah, the last thing that I wanted to bring up was the album of the week. We did not have one last week because, I forgot. This week, what's the album of the week going to be? What have I been listening to this week? I genuinely haven't really been listening to music that much this week. You know what? The album of this week is not an album at all. The album of the week is the William Montgomery podcast. That's what I've been consuming all week. I've been watching nonstop episodes of that shit. I love it so much. Casey Rocket and William Montgomery, for some reason, their pacing just soothes my mind. So that's my call for album of the week this week, and that's all that I have for you today. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you again next week. Now, when I say week, I mean 9 days, but still, I'll see you later. Peace.